goodness. Big move Monday. Look out. A way to end the tournament.
So what's happening, people? Welcome back to the Quad Pod, sponsored by Adidas Wrestling and Poseidon Strength. We are all basically, me and Robbie rocking the Poseidon Strength. Claunch and I have the new shoes. Shout out to Adidas for sending the new shoes. Have you tested yours out yet? I mean, I see that the laces are all over.
Yeah. I just wore them today, actually. And so I'll do a quick review here.
These are the new smell them through the screen.
Yeah, you use promo code QP25 to get 25% off. They've got the same sole as I think they were like the Addy Stars or the Jake Varner ones, the second version of those or whatever. But great grip. Excellent grip. What I really like about these two is they're not like a high top shoe like those other ones were. So you can still get a lot of ankle flexion. They're incredibly light. I mean, they look a little thicker, and they are at points a little bit thicker, but they are incredibly lightweight. So don't let the look make you worried about buying those shoes because they'd be too heavy, because I assure you they will not be. But yeah, in my first wear, I absolutely loved them. I'm going to rock them again probably next week as well. So big fan. And the combat speeds, as you're holding there, Mr. Holmes, those are traditionally some of my favorite shoes. In fact, I have some right here. So
yeah, I love this shoe. Honestly, I did not have a pair when I was wrestling in high school when I was growing up. I wish I did. I was more of an Asics guy back then. I think Asics were kind of the shoe of choice from a lot of guys back then. But I did love the new look of the shoe. It's pretty traditional. And it is pretty lightweight. I'm gonna be I do some boxing, if you can tell, and I'm gonna be using these during some of the boxing that I do, the boxing workouts that I do. So yeah, looking forward to getting my foot into this one. But awesome shoe. Shout out to Adidas Wrestling. But yeah, make sure you guys stay tuned to the shoe giveaway that we're gonna be having very, very soon. So you can get your own pair. I had a bunch of people that reached out, or at least like responded to my Instagram story of posting the shoe and saying that they wanted a pair or whatever else. And I'm like, participate, right? And just to dispel any favoritism, it's going to be completely random. Like it will be picked by like probably like an AI bot of like picking from like 1 to however many people actually enter or get the question right. I think we're going to do a trivia question. So yeah, we'll
have Jagger pick a number.
That I don't know how good that would go.
69 wins again.
Yeah, I was gonna say we already know the winner of that if Jagger picks the number. Shout out to Jagger. He listens to every episode, he says. So I'm sure he'll enjoy that portion of it. We are 4 men strong again. We're now back to being a quad pod. Austin has beaten the sickness that was running rampant through his house. So every single one of us is now back. We've got Austin, we've got Robbie, Claunch, and myself. And the other thing I want to mention, and it is that we have read the comments about putting names on the screen while the episode is going on. So I'm going to do this really cool thing right now where I say that the names are now on the screen and they're going to pop up. So right now the names are on the screen. See that? That was
magic.
It was really cool, wasn't it? Little video editing for you guys. But these will stay the entire show. We will have our lower thirds that pop up and disappear, but then these smaller ones will stay on the top of the screen throughout the entire episode, so you guys can get to know who's saying the dumb shit that you listen to every single week. But let's jump into the weigh-in. I'll keep it short and sweet for mine, and it is a shout out to David Carr and his new wife. He got married, I believe that was last week. So shout out to him. Love his family. As I said, I think a number of times, our mothers became really good friends when David was wrestling in Who's Number One, and our parents actually sat together, and our moms became very good friends. So literally every time I see Mrs. Carr, she tells me to tell my mother hello before she even gives me a hug. And sometimes we have to FaceTime my mom so that they can say hi to each other. So shout out to the Carr family. It's gotten even bigger now. And the wedding looked awesome. And honestly, very dangerous. I believe Yanni was there. Jordan Burroughs was there. There was a number of wrestlers that were there and also in the wedding too. So a very dangerous wedding for anyone around if the shit got out of hand. I'm sure it was handled pretty quickly. Even the next generation of danger was there in Beacon Burrows as well. So
the boy got some hair.
You guys are in trouble with them Burrows kids for a very, very long time. But we'll keep it moving. Robbie, on to you and your turn to weigh in.
So I've been enamored by the coverage from Allison Schwab on the UNI home visit to, her son, Hayden, who's one of the top prospects in the country. It's really cool. One, just to kind of see how it works from the outside, but to see the humor that they're injecting into all of it, and kind of seeing Doug is, like I said earlier, Doug is unintentionally one of the funniest people ever. Like, he's really quiet, but he's hilarious, and just kind of seeing that come through is really fun. But if you haven't seen it, I highly encourage you to go to Allison's Twitter page. Watching her make the twins introduce themselves to Doug was a highlight for me. So
yeah, shout out to the Schwabs. We'll make an attempt, at least I'll make an attempt to have Schwab on and talk about the recruiting visit, as well as, how he's handling it with his own son and the levity that they've brought to it, as well as, the team and everything else. We'll do a preview of UNI this year for sure.
We'll do a traffic report for Drew Foster.
For Drew Foster.
Yes.
Said those busy streets had those guys a little backed up and not being on time. But Austin, on to you.
Two quick ones today. First of all, shout out to the Little League Softball World Series champs from the great state of Pennsylvania, specifically Johnstown. Pretty good wrestling program out that way, Bishop McCourt. So something in the water out there, creating champions, national and world champs at that level. So pretty cool to see that yesterday. And then shout out to Julian Ramirez, who started the Frog Empire, starting a nice little club up in Ithaca, where he wrestled at Cornell. Julian was one of my favorite guys to watch. Just all around good guy, staple of that Cornell lineup for a while now, and moving on to coaching and, guiding the next, the next set of guys, young guys coming up through the system there around the Ithaca, New York area. Starting a good club up there should be fun.
It's pretty awesome, especially for a Florida guy to want to stay in Ithaca after not having to be there anymore. I would have been on the first thing smoking back to the sunshine.
Yeah,
is what it is. Kevin?
Couple quick shout outs. Drew Foster was on my fantasy wrestling team when he won a national title. So it didn't help my team really. I still suck, but quick shout out to him. I also wanted to shout out, I love walkouts and entrances. And then, Austin, you'll like this. You were at the game, I believe, when game 3 against the Detroit and Philly game a couple weeks ago.
And Torkelson didn't hit a home run?
It was an awesome game. Was it 1-0 or 2-0? That's right, because Schwarber did hit the home run.
Yeah, lost money.
But it was a really close game. Goes to the end. At one point, we've got a couple people on base. We couldn't get it done. But then they bring out their closer, and like the lights go off, and they've got this music, and they've got this whole giant production. And even as like a Tigers fan, I was like, "Oh shit, this guy's gonna strike us out." We can't stop this. Look at all those lights.
He threw 103, and then 104 miles an hour.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was wild. So yeah, shout out to that and any good walkouts. I think we can keep upping our walkout game in the wrestling world. And then as has been the case the last couple weeks, we're going to go a quick history lesson for somebody who was a wrestler. This one was fun. So again, shout out to Burger King of Kings for sending this my way. So like Ron Kovich, is an American anti-war activist, author, and United States Marine Corps sergeant who was wounded and paralyzed in the Vietnam War. His best-selling 1976 memoir, Born on the 4th of July, was made into the film of the same name, which starred actor Tom Cruise as Kovich and was co-written by Kovich and directed by Oliver Stone. So when he sent that, at first I was like, Oh shit, I did see that movie. And I was like, oh yeah, there was a scene where he wrestles in it. And that I was like, oh, cool, it's wrestling. Let's go. But yeah, Ron Kovic, he did a lot of really good activism. He was very, very, very I mean, obviously he served in Vietnam. After Vietnam, did a lot to help just be part of helping with veterans out and, protesting certain situations, trying to help just provide a lot more support for veterans after the fact, right? So big shout out to Ron and just being a wrestler and persevering through some tough stuff. So good for him.
Professor Claunch is at it again. Our we have a commenter on what is it, Spotify, and he comments every week. I want to get his name right. But he gave a shout out to Professor Claunch last week. He seems to, like everyone else, really he's been enjoying the Professor Claunch bit that has been going for quite some time, for the last, what, 3 weeks now. So shout out to Lewis Cruz, who's been commenting for the last couple of weeks, and it's pretty awesome to have somebody that continues to comment. There's other people that have commented on YouTube as well, so keep those comments coming. Please like and share. The more you guys like, share, subscribe to the channel, the more content we can do. So yeah, we really appreciate that. Speaking of the more content that we can do, a little bit of housekeeping before we get into our topics. I know last week we let you guys know some of the interviews that we're gonna have coming up. Obviously, we're still working on closing in some dates. I know was it Coach Branch is probably still working on getting him together. I talked to Nate
That's more
Engel.
me of getting my shit together than
Yeah, well,
anything.
you're also a teacher, so there's
Yeah.
that. That goes into the how many wrestling media people actually make money off of this. Well, you're a teacher, so there's that.
I
Uh,
make a lot of money off of that too.
that would be none of us who are making money off of wrestling media right now. But I talked to Nate Angle today. Him and I will be syncing up next week. My girlfriend and I are going on a cruise this week, so I will be gone
Fancy.
until Monday. So we will probably not record on Monday, by the way, because I'll be really, really fucking tired after we get
Yeah.
back being on.
Hungover is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, we have the unlimited
thing.
drink package, so yeah, that'll probably happen. But be on the lookout for the Nate Angle interview next week. I know Robbie's working on the Branch interview as well, and we'll have a ton more content. Is anyone else setting up interviews or anyone? I know Kevin, you were working on an interview as well, weren't you?
Yeah, Josh Moore, I'm recording with him Wednesday this week, so that'll be out later this week.
Cool. So yeah, be on the lookout for all the different content. We're gonna have plenty more coming, and especially as the season kind of starts creeping up closer and closer, we'll have stuff from, at least attempt to, from all the different conferences. If there is somebody from any conference that you want us to try to get, let us know. Put it in the comments. Make sure you are commenting who you want us to interview, even if it's a wrestler, coach, doesn't matter. Let us know. We'll do our best to try and get these guys and girls on, to at least let them speak to their fans. A little bit of other housekeeping. I'm going to kick it over to Austin. I know he's got some other news on the Binghamton job.
Yeah, I talked to a few people the past few days. There were 3 on-campus interviews. I guess we discussed it in the past, so it's not breaking any news here. Scott Green interviewed, Kellen Russell interviewed, and Coach LeBlanc from Citadel. Those were the 3 finalists. The school wants to have a decision made by the end of the week, which would be the 15th on Friday. So that's all the news I got. I don't know who they're leaning towards, to be honest with you, but like I said, we should get a decision by the end of the week. For those out there, it does mean an announcement's going to come. They're going to offer the position to who they think, and there's probably going to be some back and forth. It's a standard job. So there's going to be some back and forth about salaries, benefits, whatever that is. And then so if it is accepted, they need time to tell the team, all that stuff. So within the next week or two, we'll probably hear some official news from Binghamton.
For sure. Yeah, there'll be some other coaching news that we got today, at least that I confirmed today, but it's still a lot of the details are still being worked out, so I don't want to jump the gun on putting that out. But when we can, like anything else, when we can put that out there, we will. Whenever it gets confirmed, at least that it's finished and done, we will have the other coaching news. It's I don't want to say a new head coach, but there's some changes being made with some
Movement.
yeah, some movement happening. So be on the lookout for that. Well, like I said, we'll put that out whenever we get a chance to. The other thing that to kind of put a note on, I guess, and not something we're going to dive into completely, is just like well wishes to Yanni. Yanni put a nice kind of lengthy post out. When was that? A couple days ago, 5 days ago, looking at the post right now, where he said he has to have surgery and he's had an arrhythmia for quite a while. And it's stopped his heart for about 20 seconds before. So glad that Yanni is now getting any surgery or whatever he needs to get taken care of. So well wishes to him. Really looking forward to seeing him on the mat. He says he's going to be competing on August 30th. So good luck to him on one, the surgery, two, on the recovery, and three, when he gets back on the mat. Yanni being one of the more dynamic guys that we've had in our lineup in a long time, and definitely want to see him do very well. Honestly, very good kid, and can't wait to see how he does after the surgery, right? When he gets back on the mat, because he said, now he can train as hard as he wants to.
He's a
So yeah.
fun match too at RAF with Arang from India. And I think they
Yeah,
wrestled in the past. It
him
was
and
a
Bajrang have
good
wrestled
match.
before
Yeah.
too, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll dive into those matchups. I know Hamity is now gonna be wrestling Dake. That was announced today
I
as
like that.
well, that Hamity going to be taking Aiden Sinclair's place. So we'll definitely dive into the RAF matches once we get a little bit closer. But let's jump to our topics. And the first topic, it's wrestling adjacent, and it's this UFC deal with CBS. And the reason that I wanted to talk about it is because I believe it was Bosch that said like pay-per-view is dead. And I think that's kind of true. And as much as I know there's a lot of people in the wrestling community that are flow haters, their model has never been pay-per-view. So as in a sense, they've always been kind of ahead of the curve on this. And you guys know, as part of the company for 7 years, we had a lot of different conversations of why we were not doing the pay-per-view model. And I don't want to speak to the ins and outs of what Flow does now or whatever else, but I can say that like the calls for pay-per-view were always heard, and we always knew that people wanted pay-per-view, especially for the bigger events, and just kind of like sticking to those guns of not going pay-per-view was a foundational type of thing when it came to Flow. And now you're seeing more places shift away from pay-per-view. I grew up in the boxing world where all those fights were pay-per-view fights and it was on HBO. So pay-per-view was the thing. It was what everybody did when big events were coming up. It was always pay-per-view. HBO pay-per-view was like a huge thing. I honestly think that we have like a Letterman style jacket that's an HBO jacket that was given to us from one of my uncle's fights that says HBO pay-per-view. It was like the biggest and baddest thing back in the day. But now like everyone is shifting away from this, and UFC, with a $7.7 billion deal with CBS and Paramount, is going to be shifting to a subscription model starting in 2026. So what are your guys' thoughts on this new shift for arguably one of the biggest entities, if not the biggest entity for pay-per-view in sports? Kevin, what are your thoughts on the deal?
It's just the whole landscape is completely different from what it used to be, right? I mean, back in the day, I remember I would want to watch, WWF pay-per-views or something. And I don't even think we just had their box that could do it. So like
Yeah.
it just was never an option for me. So
That black box that sat on top of the TV.
yeah, exactly. So, it was never even a choice. But yeah, I mean, if you can, because here's what I do, right? I would go on if I wanted to watch like a Henry Cejudo thing, and it was maybe through ESPN or some other service, and I would pay for it for a month, and then I would cancel it or whatever it was. Like,
Or you forget to cancel it and it keeps going.
Mhm.
right. I would set a reminder in my phone and usually be pretty diligent about that stuff. But because I would only want to watch so many of them. But anyway, the if you can just keep getting money month after month after month after month with the subscription model, like, and I know that's not necessarily what this is going to be, that's one thing. But now, traditional TV companies or channels or whatever it is, right? CBS in this instance, like live sports are where the money is and where those TV contracts come in and where they're actually going to have something of value. And the other thing with UFC is it's a 12-month-a-year sport. There's not a season that they have to rely on. They're not going to have something, like the NBA where October through July you'll have some games, right? And then all of a sudden you're kind of shit out of luck the rest of the year. This is a consistent thing. It's been growing steadily for years and years and years and years. You're going to get worldwide, viewership from it. It's a huge pickup for them, and for the UFC as well. I mean, just to be on a more traditional network is cool again. So,
Yeah. Austin?
Yeah, I like it. I just read, I think it was about a week ago, NFL acquire or ESPN acquired NFL media assets. So, there's rumors that the NFL Red Zone and things like that will be more accessible to someone that doesn't have the NFL Network package or whatever that is, $80 a month or something crazy like that, right? So, I think you are right, Holmes, when you said this is kind of pay-per-view is kind of going down the drain a little bit. I know for me, I don't really watch UFC much because of the pay-per-view. I don't follow it closely enough, and I'm not going to spend $80 to watch a fight every now and then, but something like when they're on CBS, I'd be more open to watching that because A, it's less money, and B, it's just more available to me, personally. But um, I'm sure there's a lot of people with that same line of thinking. So yeah, I like the deal, see how it works out, but I think that this is the future towards live sports.
Yeah. Robbie?
Yeah, I like that I won't have to leave my house because I mean I've never been one to want to see the value in paying for a pay-per-view because I'm not a big enough UFC fan to really do that. So if there's ever a fight that I wanted to watch, that badly, I just go to a bar. I go to a sports bar, go to B-dubs, and just watch the fight. I mean, that's where I watch Askren get knocked out by Masvidal. I think that was the last fight that I actually left the house to go watch. But I mean, we're seeing the shift across the board. It started with WWF moving away from WWE, whatever syllable they're using now. And now we're seeing the other big player with the UFC moving. What would be amazing is if we could shrink the number of subscriptions that we require to watch these things. And we hear that complaint a lot in wrestling, is that there's so many services that you have to pay for because there's so many different streaming platforms. If there were, you don't want a monopoly because that's a whole other set of issues. But if there were fewer, just kind of rogue subscription services that you were required to have, that would be great. It was more streamlined.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one thing. Like I remember when Willie and Bosch were talking about how RAF is going to be on Fox Nation, and
I don't even know what that is.
yeah, right. But the thing they were saying was like, it's only $8.99. It's like, yeah, I get it, but it's an additional $8.99. Right? Like it's an additional $10 that I now have to spend on another streaming platform, on another service. Keeping
That
all
I'll forget to cancel, so I have to pay for it at least twice.
Exactly, right? Like you have to, if you're not diligent like Claunch to set reminders, you kind of lose it, right? So, and that's the thing is with this deal, and I know people are like, well, why are we talking about UFC and all these other things? Mostly because it's the model that in wrestling we have had for the longest time with our number one streaming broadcast system that is Flow. So I'm sure Flow is sitting back with the "I told you so" hat, T-shirt, and underwear on right now. But it is what it is. Like, I get it. I understand why the UFC is making this move. Shout out to my friend Mackenzie Nybert. She goes by Mackenzie Pavicic on the show, on camera, I should say. Her and I talk a good bit, literally whenever anything is going on. I'll reach out to her, respond to a story, or shoot her a text. I got a chance to run and see her and her husband when I was in Vegas years ago, and see a UFC thing. Press conference, but like, I know they're pretty excited about this deal because it will open them up to the people who are UFC fans that don't want to buy an $80 pay-per-view or a $90 pay-per-view, whatever else it is, because people are becoming more frugal these days. They don't want so many streaming services. They don't want to have NFL Plus or ESPN Plus or all these different things to watch their favorite sport or one fight for that matter, right? So, I feel like this is a good move and it's the right one, but I also think, it changes things for the fighters as well. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because for the longest time, UFC fighters have wanted to earn more money and this, that, and whatever. And Jake Paul tweeted today, UFC fighters, you should all now know the value that is on this at 7.7 billion. Like, go get your money.
Obscene amount of money.
Right. It's an obscene amount of money. But like, now would probably be the time that they want to have a fighter union and they want to do all of these things. But the reason that like it kind of like sparked, like kind of piqued my interest outside of like being a UFC fan, is the wrestler contracts on these cards. What portion of streaming are they getting with all these different contracts that they have, right? Like, I can remember, like I said, when I was at Flow and we were doing those cards and we had to make sure that Burroughs was being paid X amount, and David Taylor was getting this, and Zahid was getting this, and everybody was getting like a portion of, this, that, whatever. Like I said, I don't want to put details out there. That's not my place to do that. But those conversations had to happen before anybody was going to step foot on the mat. It was, how's the money being divvied up? How's this? How's that? How's this? So I wonder if it will move to that kind of a model where instead, because there's so many fighters that are getting percentages of pay-per-views, if the UFC starts to, like I said, mimic more of this wrestling model where we have subscription and everybody has, a good amount of people have a Flow subscription or, a Rockfin subscription if you're trying to view Willie's content that he's been pushing people to look at on Twitter these last day or so. But will this now change things for those fighters too? So, how will it all work? How will it work for Joe Rogan and DC, guys that are announcers? And how will these shows work? And how will scheduling work? Because if they're on CBS, now you have to worry about all the other sports. You have to worry about football. They do go kind of dormant during the fall season, but if there's a football game on CBS and you want to have your normal fight, a UFC fight card, whatever it is, 184, I don't even know what number they're on, and it's on normal TV, it's not on Paramount Plus, you have to work around football schedules. So scheduling for fights will also change too. So there's a number of different things that I think will change with this UFC deal, but ultimately I think it's a good thing. I think it does certainly open things up to more people, and I feel like so many of the wrestling fans that complain about Flow's model of having to subscribe, when they saw that the UFC was going and doing kind of the same thing with Paramount Plus, of us more of a subscription model, they're like, well, shit, maybe we have had it good all these years, or maybe Flow isn't so crazy. Like I said, I'll give credit where credit's due, and it's not some sort of bias that I have because I work there. I feel like you get more with a subscription than you do just pay-per-view. So that is, that's always been my thought on all of it. And it is a better revenue stream month to month with people that are renewing subscriptions. Any other thoughts on the UFC deal or how it's kind of mimicking what we have in wrestling?
The one I did have, I just remember going to the bar to watch Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner fight, both of those fights. And that was, I think, just on USA, right? Because that was like the reality show finale. So like that wasn't
Oh yeah, I think
anything that,
so.
yeah, it was like just on TV. And
Yeah.
they were two of the best damn fights I've ever seen in my entire life. And everybody watched. And so it's like, yeah, when you actually have access and like it's that available and can potentially be that good, like, man, those two dudes punched each other in the face for like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, good on Paramount too to recognize the value in those things, and good on UFC to recognize that it was probably time to shift. So we'll see how it works out. Moving to this next topic, I'm going straight to Kevin on this one because the man, the myth, the legend, Mason Parris is back in wrestling, and I want to know how many tears of joy were shed by the Michigan man that is Kevin Claunch.
It's funny. I realized we were going to do this. I'm wearing my Michigan hat, but, and actually my Team San Marino shirt. Shout out Miles Mean. Anyway,
And it's Mason Parris
Parris.
underwear.
Yes, yes. It's large underwear. No, Mason Parris is a badass, and the dude literally was like, "All right, wrestling Olympics, that was cool. How about NFL training camp?" And like, it's August 11th. He made it pretty damn far, So, good for him, man. I'm happy he got a chance to do it and chase that dream and have some fun and hit some people and ultimately, I'm happy he's coming back. I mean, he's still young. He's still got a lot of wrestling left to do. We are still in this amazing stretch of heavyweight wrestlers. So yeah, man, I'm excited at the potential to watch Mason Parris wrestle Wyatt Hendrickson at some event or World Team Trials or whatever, or Gable Stevenson again, and Kirk Fleet if he gets healthy and comes back. Like, we've got some dudes who are going to be getting after it over the next couple years. So that's very, very exciting. Glad he's coming back.
Yeah. Robbie, your thoughts on the return from Paris?
I think it's great. I think it bolsters a very strong lineup that we have at heavyweight. I mean, he's shown he can beat pretty much anybody, and it's just makes a very tough weight even tougher. And I'm glad he got the chance to do it. I mean, he was such a huge football recruit coming out of high school and chose to go the wrestling route. So I'm glad he still got the opportunity to do that. But I always enjoyed watching him, so I think it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Austin?
Yeah, I mean, it's good for the sport to get Mason Parris back, represented the U.S. at the Olympics, and then like Claunch said, like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm going to try it for the NFL now, and and makes you wonder how if he would have stuck it out, if he would have made a practice squad or eventually made a team. But I don't want to speak for Parris, but I'm sure there was some kind of I don't want to regret not trying football again kind of thing in his mind. So it's good he went back. Didn't work out for him, but he's coming back to wrestling. It seems like he's excited, and I know we're all excited to have him back because like you guys were saying, heavyweight is loaded, and he just adds to that talent now, which is going to be awesome to see.
Yeah, Claunch, you rattled off like a number of guys that we have at heavyweight. Like heavyweight depth is absolutely incredible. And I cannot wait to see him back in the lineup, right? Or not maybe not back in the lineup, but at least just back in the mix because it just makes everything that much better. I feel like next time we'll have Parris, we'll have Hendrickson, Kirkfleet, Hilger, like we'll have so many guys that are part of this wild and crazy lineup, or at least like bracket. So I'm happy that he had a chance to see how things went with the NFL. Ultimately, from what people have said before, I think Harbaugh was trying to get him to play when he was at Michigan too. So Harbaugh, leveling up to pros, and Mason Parris getting a chance to play for the Chargers and be in camp and give it a go. I think it's pretty awesome, right? Our last two heavyweights have played in the NFL, at least for some short amount of time, and as well as Kuhn too. Kuhn was also in the NFL for a
Yeah.
too. So our heavyweights are showcasing the fact that they can play multiple sports, which is awesome. And for anyone, and I know I've said this before, for anyone that has never seen Mason Parris play football, go just Google Mason Parris high school highlight tape.
He was a freak.
He is a freak at linebacker. He has interceptions, and I even think he runs a couple of routes and catches some touchdowns too. He's an absolute freak.
Somebody pointed out that he had the same number as Darren Sproles, and that was hilarious. A little bit of a size difference there.
Shout out to those head coaches too. I mean, you mentioned Harbaugh. I think it was Mike Vrabel with the Titans when they were trying to get Adam Kuhn on the team, and then I'm blanking on it's Doug McDermott. Yes, thank you. Yes. For Buffalo. So yeah, hard-nosed dudes. I know McDermott wrestled. I know Harbaugh got knocked out by a wrestler in Michigan at a bar once.
That'll teach you.
I'm pretty sure it was Scott Recksteiner, but I think the math works out over that, but I'm not sure. And
adding that as an X factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that McDermott has invited Burrows to camp as well. So Jordan Burrows has been at Bills camp before. They're obviously pretty big Bills fans. So pretty awesome to have.
The whole Thurman Thomas thing helps with that.
It does. It certainly does. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've had some really cool conversations with Lolo about having a famous uncle and how she dealt with it and how it was for her growing up. Two very different sports for the both of us, but yeah. And she's also a journalist too. I tried to get her to write a couple of things when I was at Flow, but it just never matched up. But yeah, very cool to have Mason Parris back. Looking forward to having him back in the mix and getting some even more heavyweight depth with Kirk Fleet coming back off of surgery and being prepared to get back in, at least attempt to make his first senior world team, because he has never done that. Let's jump to the Rutgers conversation. Last week when I had interviewed Steve Middich talked about something with NIL that they are doing that no other wrestling team is doing right now. They're the first team to do it. And Nick Costco, shout out to him, got a chance to speak to him earlier today. Costco talked to Goodale, and Goodale put out the news of how they're going about their NIL. And it's a thing called Fan Stake. Fans can donate to the certain wrestlers that they delegate. To every, they can do it they can donate to recruits. They can donate to the wrestlers that are already on the team. If they do donate to a recruit and the recruit doesn't show up, if he's not on campus on the first day of school, fans get their money back. So it gives the fans who essentially run their mouths all the time about, we can't get this guy because of this money, we can't get that guy because of that money. You become a donor and you can push to have this kid come to your school. And I know everybody's like, yeah, more money in wrestling and everything else, it shouldn't be a factor, but like making a living is a factor with literally most of the things that we do. Whenever this starts making money for us, I'm sure we'll be fucking happy about it. So like, let's call it what it is. Like this, we do this for fun, certainly, but if it's bringing money in, that's awesome. So I think this is a really great way of going about NIL, and with Rutgers having the fan base that they have, they should be able to, do some really great things with this new, what I said is called fan stake. And I think that there's been basketball teams and things that have utilized this before. When I was doing some research, I saw that Duke had used it to try to keep Cooper Flag, but the measly $5 million that they raised for, the number one pick in the NBA draft was not going to cut it. But yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's a really cool way of going about it. Austin, what are your thoughts on this new, I guess, like way of investing in recruits and athletes on your team?
I mean, this is, to me, when NIL became a thing, this is exactly what I was thinking it would be. The fans get to say, oh, I like this guy, let me donate to him and pay him directly. I think it's great for the sport. I think it helps programs like Rutgers and other similar schools that don't have that big donor. They don't have the Paycom CEO who's worth $1 billion, and you just need one person to donate. We saw Penn, one person donated 20 million. Not every fan base has that. So this, if you get 1,000 people to donate $100, that's, I don't know my math. It's not very good, but that's a lot of money, right? So it'll pay off in the end for the average fan that maybe can't afford $1 million check, but they can afford $100 here and there to different wrestlers to help recruiting and potentially, as much I hate to say it, keep people from transferring out. They want to up their pay, and this is probably a good way to do that. So this is I think it's a great step towards in this direction, and I think more wrestling programs will probably follow suit once they see how successful it is for Rutgers.
Yeah. Robbie, your thoughts?
I love it. I think as a sport, we rely so much on, small pockets of donors. And if we can get fans more involved in that, a little bit added here and there goes a long way. And when you have a team like Rutgers that has a pretty large fan base, and you see it with them selling out Jersey Mike's and, the attendance they get from home duels, they have a good fan base. And if you can add in, that fan base as a donor base, you're creating a hell of a situation to help the program out. And kind of like Austin said, this is what we thought of with NIL. Like you're directly benefiting the athlete for being the athlete, for the person they are, for them representing your team. Like that was the initial intent, was capitalizing on your image and your likeness because of what you do for your team. And I think it could be a great opportunity.
Yeah. Claunch, your thoughts on this, and do you think that other teams start to adopt it too?
I hate it. I think that you should be happy getting your education and being loyal to the program despite any of the shit they do to you. No, it's great. It's like any of this NIL stuff, man. There's so much unknown, and there's always going to be the guy who's like, well, this could go wrong. Oh, well, what happens if he just starts transferring schools every year to go get more money somewhere else? It's like, dude, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It's already happening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
happening.
reality.
Yeah, it's like, and it's already happened to Rutgers and other schools, like
multiple times, and for Rutgers, if we're being fair with Soriano.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, they got Soriano, but then Soriano left, and
that was before NIL though.
But it was also before NIL.
Allegedly,
they got Bass. Yeah. They got
before legal NIL.
There's always different.
They got Lenny Pinto, right?
They did get Pinto this year.
Yes, they did. So there's always stuff that's going to happen, and it is what it is. But I do always like the fact that if they're going to provide some sort of a sanction and agreed upon and approved through the NIL channels way for people to make some money, for fans to get involved, put their, quite frankly, money where their mouth is, right? Like, you don't have to donate, but you can now. So, that plus your subscriptions and all your everything else you need to watch wrestling. So, but no, I think it's fun. And I think there's going to be some schools that do it. I'm sure some athletic departments are going to be a little bit wary of what could happen, what the effects could be that are negative. But ultimately, I think it's probably more positive than negative.
Yeah, and something that Goody said during the interview is that during those matches, you'll be able to donate to those kids, right? So, I think he used Barbosa as an example. He said, well, when Barbosa's out on the mat, his QR code will be on the screens throughout Jersey Mike's, right? So you can literally scan that QR code while he's wrestling and donate to Barbosa as things are transpiring, right?
You
So
can pay him $1 a point.
you could, right? And you don't get refunded if he loses, by the way. That doesn't happen. That does not happen. So for anyone trying to get your money back if he loses, not
In
gonna
fact,
happen.
don't even Venmo request him if he loses. Just leave him alone. Now you owe me money, Vinny.
I honestly I love my favorite part of it is that when it comes to like a recruit, right? Like you can enter in like a recruit that you're going after, right? Say they're going after Bo Bassett, and the Rutgers is like, we want Bassett at this school. Throw your money in there, right? If Bassett doesn't come to the school, you get your money back, right? So like it's a new way of engaging your fan base and growing your fan base as well, by saying you can now have a say in, at least a small minuscule say in who we're bringing in here, right? Like we're going to tell you who we're going after. We'll be more transparent with who we're recruiting through this app. And you can now participate with us in recruiting some of the guys that you feel would be good in our lineup. And if, the kid doesn't end up coming to your school, then you get your money back, right? So I think it's a win-win for the school. And I also believe that a lot of other schools are going to try to implement this. This is a great way of going about it, instead of the fictitious cars and trucks that we've seen other wrestlers get and, not do really anything to get them in the past, right? Like the first wave of NIL was like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. It was like insane the amount of things that were happening. So, I think it is being honed in a little bit, but trust me, it's still the wild, wild west. My other podcast, the Athletes podcast that I do with my business partner, Reed, we talked about all the fallout of this House versus NCAA case and all the challenges that have come up, and how, one of the biggest sports celebrities right now, Livy Dunn, is challenging all of these different things, with Title IX and this, that, whatever. So NIL, as much as we have the good ideas and people are interacting with it, there's still a lot of bullshit and red tape that people have to kind of go around and jump through hoops to get. But ultimately, I think it's a good idea. I think it's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing how it works out, how it impacts their recruits. Rutgers has another top 10 recruiting class. Could it be better with having fans more engaged? Maybe. So we'll certainly see. Any other thoughts on Rutgers' new approach to NIL?
And the thing that I like too, as a fan, like we kind of touched on it, you can choose exactly where that money goes. Like when your wrestlers gets a pin, you could pay $20 for him to buy dinner, that night or something. So I think the fans are like, they know exactly where that money's going, instead of what's the alternate right now? Donate to this NIL collective. Well, who decides where that money goes? There's not really any control, maybe not full transparency that way. So like I said, if it's simple as buying someone dinner, great. That's sometimes that's all a kid really wants in life, is a nice meal after getting a big win or something like that, right?
Yeah. And the money is divvied up too. Like the service makes a percentage, the platform gets a percentage, but like the kid gets obviously the brunt of it too. So
Yeah.
That is something that I hope they do, is that they put out there like their percentage that goes to the platform, so that people know, like, if I donate $20, he gets 15 of it, right? Like I want to make sure that he's getting a whole $50. So I'll donate 55 so that the $5 goes to the platform and then the 50 goes to the kid, if it's, something like that. Right. So hopefully there's some transparency with that too. But I'm looking forward to seeing how it works out. I honestly really like the idea. I loved it when I was talking with Mitch about it off camera. You know, he gave me some insight about it. And so, yeah, really, really awesome to see that Rutgers is trying to implement this.
And you can donate to other teams that you don't like so that they go get dinner and miss weight.
That honestly, I would do that all the time. I'd be like, I don't want this kid.
It's an epidemic of people missing weight. What is going on?
What is happening? Right. Yeah, that'd be funny. That'd be really, really funny. Speaking of big dinners, let's move to this next one. We talked about kids transferring and big dinners. I think this was like a perfect setup for our next topic of AJ Ferrari's discussion about moving up to heavyweight and eating 5 to 10 steaks per day or 12 pieces of salmon or everything else. I am hopeful that he's not eating 5 or 10 steaks a day.
He's never going to poop.
That is not good for your body.
Maybe that's why he's gaining weight.
Paper.
Like, that's
he doesn't need that toilet paper anymore.
He's gaining all that weight because he's completely corked. Like there's nothing, everything going in, nothing coming out. But no, I think it's a good move for him to move up to heavyweight. Honestly, he was really big last year. I think, you know, it wasn't the easiest for him to make 197 again. He had that year off where he didn't have to make weight at all. So I'm sure he was probably sitting around 220, 230 during that time span, because he's tall. I mean, he's a little bit taller than I am. Not to say that I'm this giant, but he's like a good bit taller than me. And, you know, I sit at 200 pounds. So like, I can only imagine what this person trying to make 197, who is a pretty big human, is trying to do making 197. But do you guys think that this is a good move? Robbie, I'm going to come to you. Do you think it's a good move for Ferrari to move up to heavyweight?
So first, before I comment on that, I'm in the middle of a conversation with Chad Vilwalk, whose son Mason wrestles at Chadron State. He's a Nebraska guy involved in the feed trade, knows his cows, right? So we're trying to figure out price points of how much this would actually cost to eat good Nebraska beef if he's eating 5 to 10 steaks a day. So we're taking average size, we'll say an average size 12-ounce sirloin, 5 to 10 a day. So let's say 8. He's eating, 96 ounces of steak a day. And if we're paying, let's give him a round number, $15 a pound, right? For a decent steak. That's going to add up real quick. And salmon's got to be outrageous there. There's nowhere to get salmon in Nebraska.
Salmon.
Going into Missouri, you're not going to get any salmon there. The Platte, it's not realistic. The Elkhorn, I mean, there's so many rivers there, but none of them have salmon. So unless he's got a direct NIL with the feedlot, I don't think this number's realistic. Omaha Steak, you triple that number if you're going to talk about Omaha Steaks.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, a little overrated, and I can get you better beef than that from Nebraska if you want some good Nebraska beef.
This is an amazing breakdown, by the way.
So we're trying to figure that out. But I was trying to wrap my mind around it because it's hard to find good steak in Virginia, right? So I grew up spoiled, having good fresh beef all the time. So I'm a little bougie with the beef that I eat. So I was trying to wrap my mind around that and figure out.
These are terrible things to say with Kevin in the conversation.
I was going to say.
I'm just going to stop you right there. Kevin is writing these jokes down like bit for bit. This is like the worst conversation to have. I'm trying to like focus on what you're saying, but I'm looking at Kevin and he is not holding it together whatsoever.
Yeah.
Worst poker face out in the game is Kevin.
Good Nebraska beef is Robbie's stage name. Most people don't know that.
Bougie beef eater.
Oh man, this show is completely off the rails. We apologize to our watchers and listeners, but this is what you get when you subscribe to this. This is what you get. You get beef breakdowns and Robbie's Wyoming stripper name.
So,
Which, funny enough, we talked
But-
about after the last episode. Anyway,
that was a different conversation. As far as Ferrari goes, though, I think it's a great move moving up to heavyweight. I think he's going to be better there. It was definitely a tough cut for him to get down to 97 last year, and it allows him to be more athletic at a higher weight, and that's going to give him an advantage there that he didn't have as much at 97. So I think it's a good move for him.
Yeah.
I do want to know who his NIL deal is with though for stakes, if this is real.
Yeah, it's serious. Austin, your thoughts on Ferrari's move up to heavyweight?
I think it's a good move. I think we all kind of touched on it. I think post NCAAs, a lot of his matches that he won were by a riding time point, or they were super close, not really scoring a ton of points, not getting many takedowns. I think we even mentioned like maybe he will go up to heavyweight because that's kind of the style that he was wrestling, at least at that point in the season, to squeak out those close ones. And I mimic what Robbie said, it allow him to maybe open up a little more, show his athleticism without having that cut, show off that Ferrari engine, and he can show us how fast, quick twitch he is, and we can only hope that his deadlift does go up because it's I think 675 for a while now, so I think he's probably hitting 700 after a few stakes, I would imagine.
Yeah, Claunch?
yeah, man, it's going to be exciting. Ben Keeter against heavyweight AJ Ferrari, like that's going to be badass. We'll get that a couple times a year. It's just, we still have some pretty great athletic fun moving around heavyweights, so I think he'll fit right into the mix. And hopefully the size and athleticism can help him out. It will be interesting to see some of those other guys who maybe are a little bit more physical and don't let them dance around a little bit, but man, it's going to be a fun wrestling season at heavyweight, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, also in the mix is going to be Braxton Amos too. I know he's up at heavyweight. He's not going back down to 97. So he's been a healthy, I believe, like 230 for a good bit now. I talked to him months ago. I'll probably try and check in with him too to see how he's doing, how the shoulder is. But we're gonna have a good crop of guys just with the two of them moving up from 97 to heavyweight. I know people are probably thinking that heavyweight kind of clears out. I don't think that we'll ever have the same type of dynamic guys that we had with Gable and Hendrickson and Parris. That was and Kirkfleet, right? Like that was kind of a different set of guys. That was very different, right? Like shit, two of the four played in the NFL. So
Yeah.
kind of a different crop of heavyweights, but I do think that these guys will put on a show as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing how AJ does up at heavyweight and how if his footwork comes with him, because that was something that I feel was lacking a little bit last year, was that movement and his ability to get to a leg, right, and be strong when he got there. We saw him up against Stephen Little, and he was to a leg, and Little was able to fight it off in the Big 12 finals. So or Pac-12 finals. But like, that's the one thing that worries me is like, is he going to be able to be that guy? Because he obviously the weight cut was getting to him at 97, but he's going to have to go back to the drawing board of who he was when he was at Oklahoma State to truly get his leg attacks back, because it just looked like he lacked a high level leg attack when he was up against really good competition. So that's the, outside of the move to another weight class, I'm looking forward to seeing if, or at least what Manning and Brian Snyder and Tervel, more so Tervel than anyone, does for his style and his attacks. Because that's really going to be kind of the deciding factor of, is it a good move or not? But I think if anybody is going to get you ready to be a heavyweight, it's Tervel Delagne.
And a lot of times he avoided takedowns was due to his size, just being so strong and stingy with someone on his leg or in
And
certain
his flexibility
positions.
too. That is
That went a
something
long
else,
way too.
He
Yeah, I
has
just
that
wonder if he's not way bigger or stronger than his opponent, if he's going to be able to fight off those takedowns. So that's the other thing that shot in my mind as well.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we've hit all of our key topics that we wanted to hit. Now, the last week we started having a little bit of fun to end the show. Austin missed out on it, but we built our NCAA wrestling 26 game. We had a cover athlete and who's our locked characters and stuff like that. Now this week we're gonna still kind of stay traveling down this video game road a little bit, and probably the last week we do this. We'll have something different next week. If you have any suggestions, throw them in the comments. But today we're gonna build a folk style wrestler, and we've got some different categories, and we have to pick one wrestler, no repeats for all the different categories. You have to pick a takedown, a pinning combination, the pace of one certain wrestler, the IQ, technique, defense, and then the top game. So, the rideability of a wrestler. But then in the last category, it's just X factor. And you pick two out of that X factor that kind of makes your all encompassing wrestler. And that's your, creator wrestler that you are throwing into, NCAA 2026, your road to glory mode or your dynasty mode or whatever else it is. So I'm going to start with Austin because he missed out on last week. So Austin, build your ultimate folk style wrestler.
All right, a little bit of recency bias here. I try not to do too many guys that are recent. But for my takedown guy, I'm going old fashioned doubles, Jordan Burroughs. I think just his senior year, I he just scored so many takedowns. It's hard to go against someone like that. For pinning combinations, I have two answers here, so I'll pick one so you guys can pick the other ones. I went Zane Rutherford. There he was a freaking beast on top with that bow and arrow. Got a lot of pins of it. A lot of text too, but just really painful from being down there. Pace, I went with Austin DeSanto. Pretty obvious one there. IQ, I had a few names written down, a few crossed off. I ended up with Yanni. I just feel like his mat awareness, his IQ, and IQ, I kind of I included like a natural feel with that because I think that is a form of IQ. So I think Yanni was really special there. Defense, I put Dean Heil because they made a rule change after him. And then I put Ben Askren after that because Askren was incredible defensively, kind of brought the funk mainstream, kind of changed the game there. X Factor, I have two answers here, but I'll go a little more old school. I'll go Dylan Ness just because not really ever out of the match, can kind of catch you any position, anytime, whether he's up or down. Ability to ride, I did Kyle Dake. Those mat returns he had were incredible. That claw ride he had was top notch. Just I always think about that NCAA final. I think it was against Molinaro. He had like 6.5 minutes of riding time in an NCAA final. That is just incredible. And then I think I skipped over technique. I just put David Taylor there. I just think his technique was really, really good. And, certain positions, he just felt like he did little things to help him gradually improve positions. Breaking down the film on a guy like David Taylor, you're going to learn something. So that's kind of who I have there.
Yeah. Nicely
I'm not
done.
sure if there's any disagreements anywhere, but that's who I got.
No disagreements from me. Claunch, you're up next.
All right. Leg attacks, I'm going Cale Sanderson. It worked pretty well for him. So let's go with that one. Yeah, little ankle pick action. Everyone knew it was coming. It still worked. Pinning combination and riding, I'm doing these two together because it makes sense kind of to do them together with that they're essentially from the same position. And both of these guys you could just switch out for the other one. But I put for pinning combination Chris Flieger for Purdue. That dude was just
Throwback.
Man, I was going to swear hard right now, but I'm not going to. Man, he was good on top. God, there's just one clip I keep seeing of him wrestling in the Big Ten finals, I think, and he's wrestling a Michigan dude. Might have been Joe Warren or AJ Grant. I don't know who it was. But anyway, he's wrestling this dude. And he's on top, and he's just kind of floating around, throwing these, like, little halves in, and he's catching a wrist, and then all of a sudden he pops his hips around, and it's just before the guy even knew what happened, he was just completely stacked on his back, and it was just gnarly. So that's a fun one. And then Nick Simmons, yeah, man, just was so good
He's
and
a
mean
freak.
on top. If you pair up Chris Fleeger and Nick Simmons as like your top dudes, like that person underneath is crying themselves to sleep. Just the night before they even wrestle them because they know what's coming.
Or they're being put to sleep because Nick Simmons is the strangler. So.
Literally just going to choke you out. Yeah. Pace, I'm going Brent Metcalf. Just relentless. I mean, he was doing that to people before it was cool to do that to people. You know what I mean? So I'm going that. IQ, I'm going Miles Amin. I'm wearing Michigan stuff. He's a smart dude. He's won some pretty big matches, beat Aaron Brooks. Not a lot of old people do that. So he's won a lot of really, really close matches. His Olympic bronze was, last second takedown. This most recent one, he almost did it again. So I feel like that has a lot to do with just keeping yourself in the match and giving yourself an opportunity to win at the end. Technique, man, I went Askren. I don't know. I mean, that dude completely elevated the game technically, and was so far advanced from everybody else at that time. And now literally like everybody does what he was doing back then, or at least much more consistently. Defense, Kyle Dake. I mean, that dude, even now, what are you going to do? You're not going to score on him. You're going to have to figure something else. And apparently you're not going to get away from him either because he's going to put up 6.5 minutes of riding time. X factors. This is the fun part. All right. So Kellen Russell, clutch factor. Never lost an overtime match. Won an NCAA title on a broken ankle. Like, dude was just not going to. He won 2 Big Ten championships by beating Royce Alger and rock, paper, scissors in a hotel in like Tibet or some shit. So, he just figures out a way to win. My last X factor is the giant balls on Deuce Rachel. That dude, anybody who forgot about this, all he needed to do was not get pinned by, I think it was Sam Stoll for Illinois to beat Iowa. And he went out there and was like, I'm throwing him, and just goes right to his back. Didn't work out. But I love the idea behind it. You know what I mean?
Incredible.
Just throwing caution to the wind. And I figure if I have the rest of these qualities, those giant balls are going to come in handy, So yeah, those are my choices.
Nice. Robbie?
That's fair. So two of the guys I wrote for takedowns already got taken. They're just kind of iconic with Kale with his ankle pick and Jordan with his doubles. It's just what you know him for. The one that I'm going to go with is Keith Gavin and his arm drags. Just pulling people's arms off left and right. And I can speak from experience that it does not feel good at all to be arm dragged. So I'm going to go with by Keith Gavin. Pace, I'm going to go more recently. I'm going to go with Trent Hidley, just because he's a fucking animal and just goes after it all the time. And that's kind of how he lives his life. IQ, I had Yanni written down, just because I think he's kind of a savant about the sport, but that was already taken. So I'm going to go with Dake there. Pinning combo, I'm going to go. Did you say Zane, Austin?
I said Zane, yeah.
Pinning. All right. And I'll switch up my Penn State guys and go David Taylor there for pinning combinations, just because he had a lot of them. Technique all around. There's so many different ways you can go with this. But I'm going to go with Ed Ruth just because he had so much natural technique that was just refined once he started getting really good coaching. And he was just a complete freak. Not a great driver, but a great wrestler. Defense, Dake was taken. I'm going to go with Jaden because he also has the sneaky defense of sweating everywhere and making it impossible to take him down. So it's like two-tier defense because he's hard to take down anyway.
A built-in X factor.
Yeah.
It's just a faucet.
All right. Defense. What do I have for defense?
That was Jaden, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah,
said
that's
Jaden.
what, that's
You
what
said
it was.
Jaden was
Yeah, yeah. The other one I wanted to mention with IQ, for a current wrestler, and I know we talk about him all the time, but I think Caleb Henson has a fantastic mat IQ, and I think you're going to see it's already a two-time finalist, but I think what I've seen from him and his coachability, it's only going to improve. So I think he's definitely one to watch for that over the next few years. X factors are hard because there's so many different ones. I mean, Robles, dude, fucking won a title on one leg. That's got to be some sort of X factor, right? Like talking about big balls. I'm gonna go with Mako for one of my X factors because I'm pretty sure he was the scariest wrestler in the history of the sport, and nobody ever wanted to actually wrestle him. And he just kind of has this mystique about him, and I think that was played a big role in his success. And then I'm gonna go with the other Ness for grit because if you can't see that Jason Ness takedown in the last second against Dennis and not think of what that kind of encapsulates what grit is, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I should have mentioned is that we're only picking guys from the last 25 years. I didn't mention that. So if you are throwing any of your creator wrestlers into the comments right now, which I hope you're doing, last 25 years. Now I'll bring it home with my guy. For takedowns, I went David Taylor. Obviously, he was coached by Kale, but he had so many different ways to score on his feet. For pinning combination, I went with Ed Ruth's Cradle because once that thing was
so
locked,
nasty.
you rarely got out of it. It was honestly a toss up between Ed Ruth's Cradle and JO's Cradle. Because
Yeah,
that
I
year
had
that
him on there
JO was
too.
just pinning everyone was pretty crazy. And when Metcalf's pace, you kind of have to. He was doing all these things before Messenbrink and DeSanto. Messenbrink was a close second for me because I knew DeSanto was going to be thrown in there. For
Serial
IQ,
killer classes disqualified.
yeah,
Whenever it
I
is.
was waiting for that one. For IQ, I went with a guy that no one has said yet, and it's somebody that I talked about before in another episode when we did our Final X breakdown, and it's David Carr. Because his ability to make the adjustments and execute a game plan like we've never seen, like it's incredible, right? Like we've seen him, like I said, beat Takatani, we've seen him, beat O'Toole after losing to him and make the adjustments there, and then obviously do the same thing with Messenbrink to win the spot at 74. So I'm going David Carr's IQ. I at technique, I had two Cowboys, and again, I had Jo there mostly because I had heard a bunch of guys, Jordan Bros being one of them, that Jo was one of like the craziest technicians. But the other one that I put in here was Chris Pendleton, mostly because I figured a lot of people would put Askren in there with his funk technique, and Pendleton was kind of the kryptonite of that. For defense, I put Nolf because of his ability to literally score anywhere. Think Win Dixie. You're in on his legs and then you're on your back. For rideability, I use Zane. We talked about him just being absolutely crippling on top, bow and arrow, crushing your face and all that. X factors, I had Cale Sanderson's mentality. The fact that you go 159-0, you have to have a pretty strong mentality. And then for I had unpredictability in here with Dylan Ness because you never really knew what was going to happen there. But the other guy that I wanted to get in here was Ringer, and it was his consistency. And it was every single time out, Ringer was just in cruise control when he was winning his titles. So those are my guys. That's kind of how I put it together. The only other one that I had that I didn't mention was just like Clutch Gene, and that was Chenzo and his inside trip in the finals against Imar. But yeah,
I missed my writing top work. I had Logan Stieber.
there you go.
Good choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So it's a pretty fun exercise. Hopefully, you guys that are commenting, you're creating your own wrestlers, throwing them in there. But yeah, we'll continue to have some really cool things to do at the end of shows, kind of wrap things up, kind of create wrestlers or talk about old matches or something, right? If you have anything, throw them in there. I also had my friends. I sent them the same kind of a thing. They threw some different guys at me. Then we had in there my friends Andrew Drake and Angelo DeLeo. My friend Angelo DeLeo was the one that said he had the surgery, and we were at his wedding. We were like, dude, we had no idea. Angelo had Brooks for technique and Megaludis for defense. We've literally seen Nico in a split
Blitz.
so many freaking times.
Mm-hmm.
Drake had, I'm trying to see, he had Spencer Lee for technique. He had RBY for defense, because we've seen RBY cartwheel out of some stuff and do some really crazy things. Those are kind of the only two guys that they had that we didn't have in anything that we had said. There was kind of a smattering of, Cale Sanderson and some other people that were in there. But yeah, always fun.
Jesse Delgado for using the edge.
Jesse Delgado, his match with Nashon, I will never forget. That was one of the wildest matches. Like, everybody was on their back and no points were scored. So, like, even though like we credit Dean Heil for being the danger rule guy, I also think that they watched that match and they were like, somebody has to have points from this scenario. So yeah, shout out to all the different Cowboys that now have rules, from Chris Perry to Jo to Dean Heil. Cowboys create rules apparently. Yeah, gentlemen, that's the show. Another fun one. Like I said, create your wrestlers, throw them into the comments. We love to see you guys commenting. Appreciate our fan from Canada. Shout out to him for commenting last week.
Hey,
We're international. Let's go.
Yeah, we've got some. We actually have a good amount of people around the world that are watching. Like I said, I get a chance to look at those analytics, and it's pretty cool to see that people from kind of all over are taking in our stupidity. But yeah,
well, next week we'll figure out which current college wrestler would win the Hunger Games.
Honestly, that is not a bad idea. We had to put together a team to win the Hunger Games. Who would it be? That'll be next week's. But no, we appreciate everybody listening, watching, commenting, subscribing, all the different things that you guys do to support us and follow us on social media as well. Make sure you are liking and subscribing to the channel. The more that you guys do that and support us, the more that we can do for you. We will have all of the different criteria for the shoe giveaway coming very soon, and we'll put them out on our social media channels, both on Instagram and Twitter, as well as they'll be in the comments here too, down below in the description. But make sure you guys are paying attention to all those things when that comes around. We appreciate all the love we get, all the support we get, all the hate and nonsense we get as well. There isn't a lot of that, but there are some people that think we're idiots. But yeah, appreciate all of it. And like I said, I will be away, so we won't record on a Monday night. It'll hopefully be pushed to a Tuesday, so it'll be a day later next week. So on Wednesday, you will be getting this show most likely instead of Tuesday morning. But we appreciate you guys supporting the show, and we'll see you again next time. Peace.